Shalom. Giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh by Hashem Yahushua by Hashem Kakodash. Double honor to the apostles and the elders of the great millstone who rule and teach well. Peace and safety and much blessings to the alchemists pushing this truth at the four corners of the earth and our truth, the sincerity and the diligence. Shalom. Alright, I just want to get into this topic of basically the Christian church says the troublous times will be the 7-year tribulation after the rapture. All right, which is totally false. Basically saying that Christians say that the troublous times is, you're gonna have, it's gonna be a rapture. Christians are gonna get beamed up in the sky in the heavens, and everybody that's down here is gonna go through a seven-year tribulation, right? And that couldn't be more untrue. Okay, and it basically they just don't understand the scriptures. The spirit of the Heavenly Father is not with them. All right. But, Lord willing, I get into it and get some edification from it. So I'll start right at Daniel's 9:24. It says 70 weeks, right? Well, let me start at 23. At the beginning of thy supplications, the commandment came forth. And I am come to shew thee. This is an angel, talking to Daniel. All right, I am come to shew thee that thou art greatly beloved. So Daniel was greatly beloved, and that's what we inspire to be, greatly beloved, by Yahweh, by Hashem Yahushua. Therefore understand the matter and consider the vision. It says 70 weeks are determined upon thy people, and upon the holy city, to finish the transgressions and to make an end of sins. See, verse 24 is a summary of verse 25 and 26, because that 70 weeks, go into 490 years. You can just pull out your little calculators, just do 70 times 7, which is 490. All right, and we're gonna get into that here later in the lesson. It says 70 weeks are determined upon thy people, upon the holy city, to finish the transgression and to make the end of sins, to make reconciliation for iniquity. And who does reconciliation comes through? It comes through Yahweh Shah. See, and it says to finish the transgression. So Yahweh Shah had to do everything he had to do within the flesh, according to prophecy. All right. So him finishing the transgression is going into, this is Matthew 1:21. It says, and she shall bring forth a son, and thou shalt call his name Yahweh, for he shall save his people from their sins. You see, that's going into finishing the transgression. This is Matthew 5:17. It says, and think not that I come to destroy the law or the prophets, but I am come not to destroy, but to fulfill. You see? So Yahweh Shah came to fulfill the law. He came to fulfill, what's written in the prophets. All right? This is what it means to finish the transgression and to make an end of sins, to make reconciliation. Like I said, who does reconciliation comes from, right? This is Romans 5 and 8. It says, but the Most High commanded his love towards us, in that while we were yet sinners, Hamashiach died for us. Much more then, now being justified by his blood, we shall be saved from the wrath through him. For if when we were enemies, we were reconciled to the Most High by the death of his son, talking about the elect, much more being reconciled, we shall be saved by his life. All right, so we shall be saved by his life. So it was only through Yahweh Shah, right, that that we would be able to be the finishing of the transgression and reconciliation for iniquity to be made. Right, so I'm gonna just read to verse 25. It says, and to bring in everlasting righteousness. And that's, to bring in everlasting righteousness. Right? So you have to get the whole enchilada when you're reading this. It says, and to seal up the vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the, see, this is where it's breaking it down at. Knowing therefore and understand, from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem unto the Messiah, the Prince, shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. The street shall be built again, and the wall even in troublous times. See, this is what Christians, this is where they err at, and they fumble miserably. So it says, know therefore and understand from the going forth of the commandment to restore and build Jerusalem, right, until the Messiah, the Prince, shall be 7 weeks. So from the time that the decree was given to rebuild the temple, right, to the time of Nehemiah and Artaxerxes and the crucifixion of Yahushua, right, that was 483 years, right? So look, it says from the going forth of the commandment to restore the, who gave the first commandment, right? Who gave the first commandment to do that? This is to rebuild the temple. This is, let's say, Ezra 1. This is Ezra 1 and 1. It says, now the first year of the Cyrus king of Persia, that the word of Yahweh by the mouth of Jeremiah might be filled, that the Lord stirred up the spirit of Cyrus king of Persia, that he made a proclamation throughout all his kingdom, and put it also in writing, saying, thus Cyrus king of Persia, Yahweh, power of heaven, had given me all the kingdoms of the earth, and he had charged me to build him an house at Jerusalem, which is in Judah. We're going to stirring up that spirit, for him to order of the rebuilding of the temple. Let's see. That's Second Chronicles 36. This is Second Chronicles 36 and 22. It says, now in the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, that the word of the Lord spoken by the mouth of Jeremiah may be accomplished, that the Lord stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia, that he had made a proclamation throughout all the kingdom and put it in writing. And this is the same thing, but it's just to solidify. It said, thus says Cyrus, king of Persia, all the kingdoms of the earth had the Lord given me, and he had charged me to build a house in Jerusalem, which is in Judea. Who is there among you of all his people? Yahweh, his power be with him, and let him go up. So I believe that, let's see, Ezra, we can go back to Ezra, is it Ezra 6? Something I don't want to get there too. I don't want 7 and let me just say, I don't want to jump the gun. There it is. This is This is Ezra 7 and 27. It says, blessed be Yahweh, power of our fathers, which had put such a thing as this in the king's heart, to beautify the house of the Lord, which is in Jerusalem. So this is going back. Let's go back to Daniel 9. This is going to show you Daniel 9, 24. It says, the going forth of the commandment to restore and rebuild Jerusalem, right? Unto the Messiah, the Prince shall be 7 weeks. Now, the restoration of the temple took, it's 70 weeks. So 7 times 7, that's 49. So the restoration of the temple from what is Artaxerxes, if I'm saying that right, it took 49 years for the restoration of the temple. And then from the restoration of the temple, it took 434 years. So if you take out your little, I got like a little, I can pull out a little calculator right quick. One of them got one on this laptop. I guess not. I don't want to look for it. So if you take out, so if you got, so if it was 40, 49, it took 49 years, so those 7 weeks, so 7 times 7, which would be 49, right? And then you got, it says 62 weeks, so that's 62, right? So let's go 62 times 7. That's 434 plus 40, those 49, right? 49 years it took for the restoration of the temple, to rebuild the temple. It's 483, okay? Which goes to show you how on point that the scriptures is, okay? You see, it says the street shall be built again, and the wall, even in troublous times. Now, you have to go back and understand what that troublous times was in, because you got to understand that Ezra left before Nehemiah. All right, Nehemiah, was constructing the wall. Now, look, check this out. Let's see where I want to go. Let's just go to Ezra. Ezra 4. This is Ezra 4, Salaki. This is Ezra 4 and 1. It says, now when the adversaries of Judah and Benjamin, right? When the adversaries of Judah and Benjamin heard that the children of the captivity built the temple unto the Lord power of Israel. Now, you got to understand, Levi was in there too, because Levi was, under the same oppression. Okay. Remember, all right, because you had, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. All right, so let's get that understood. It says, then they came to Zerubbabel and the chief of the fathers and said unto him, let us build with you, for we seek your power as ye do, and we do sacrifice unto him since the day of Esarhaddon, king of Ashur, which brought us up hither. Right, in the history of that, I'm gonna grab it in a second. It says, but Zerubbabel and Joshua, and the rest of the chief of the fathers of Israel said unto them, ye have nothing to do with us to build a house unto our power, but we ourselves together will build unto the Lord our power, as King Cyrus, the king of Persia, had commanded us. All right, I see, but the reason why they was feeling like, hey, we seek unto your power, back in verse 2, reason why they felt like that is because they were placed in that land back in 2 Kings 17. 2 Kings 17 and 22. It says, for the children of Israel walked in all the sins of Jeroboam, which he did. They departed not from them, until Yahweh removed them out of his sight, as he has said by all the servants of the prophets. So was Israel carried away out of their own land to Assyria unto this day. The king of Assyria brought men from Babylon. See, this is that history right here. And from Cathah, and from Ava, and from Hamath, and from Sepharvaim, and placed them in the cities of Samaria, right? Placed them in the cities of Samaria instead of the children of Israel, and they possessed Samaria to dwell into the cities thereof, right? It says, and so it was at the beginning of their dwelling there that they feared not the Lord. Therefore the Lord sent lions among them, which slew some of them. Wherefore they spake to the king of Assyria, saying, the nation which thou hast removed and placed in the city of Samaria know not the manner of the power of that land. Therefore he has sent lions among them, and behold, they slay them, because they know not the manner of the land. And the king of Assyria commanded, saying, carry thither one of the priests whom ye brought back from thence, and let him go and dwell there, and let him teach them the manner of the power of the land. Okay? See? Then one of the priests whom they had carried away from Samaria came and dwelt in Bethel and taught them how they should fear the Lord. All right. So the point is that, all right, they was in that land. You had heathens that was placed in that land. From generation to generation to generation. All right. And so then for whenever they come, here it is. They come hollering at Ezra. Hollering at Zerubbabel like, "Hey, let us come build with you. Let us do this with you. You know, it's like it. Let us do this with you. We seek your power too." And the reason why they had that mindset is because of that history right there. You know, because they was up there. They was in that land for a while, for a good little while. You know, I wish I could find. I know I probably won't. I ain't gonna have it. It's lucky. But all right, we're going to the matter of fact, let me do this. Let me pull this up so I can be looking at it at the same time. So this is when we about to get into the tribulous times. Okay. Says, let's see, the street shall be built again, the wall, even in tribulous times. So the rebuilding of the temple was in tribulous times. Okay, so we did the math. It was the rebuilding of the temple. It took 49 years. All right, so within that time, you had a lot of things that happened. Right? Look, watch this, and we're gonna read some of it. Let's go here. So let's read verse 4. It says, "Then the people of the land weakened the hands of the people of Judah and troubled them in building." So we can just close the book right there. Right? But no, we're gonna keep going. It says, "And hired counselors against him to frustrate their purpose in all the days of Cyrus, the king of Persia, even to the reign of Darius, king of Persia." Now you gotta understand that Cyrus the Great. In between Cyrus the Great, you had Cambyses the Second. Darius, Xerxes, Artaxerxes. You had these different kings, so they was being, you know, being all right taunted, if you will, or being frustrated and being harassed for a long time. Okay, for a long time they was having to deal with that folliness them, because that's what it was like. They always Heathens always wanted to you know because they knew the temple was our power source, man. All right, like now even today, like because we're the third temple, but this is a spiritual house, built up by lively stones. You see, so yeah. So we'll keep reading. It says, verse 6. It says, "And they reign and in the reign of uh, Xerxes, I believe that's what it is, Assuerus. In the beginning of his reign, wrote they unto him accusations against the inhabitants of Judah and Jerusalem." So they was hating. This is the troublous times. They was hating, and I'm gonna show you. It says, "And in the days of Artaxerxes," right? Yeah, Artaxerxes wrote Bishlam Meredath to build, and the rest of the companions unto Artaxerxes, king of Persia, and writing the letter which was written in the Syrian tongue and interpreted in the Syrian tongue, right? Returned to the chancellor of Shimshai, and the scribe wrote a letter against Jerusalem to Artaxerxes, the king, in this sort, right? So when you can read down in the chapter and it'll tell you, you know, Let's see. Let me get to the point. I'm gonna read verse 15. This is what he wrote to him. He said that search. He said now because verse 14. Now because we have maintenance from the king's palace, and that it was not meet for us to see the king's son, and therefore we have sent a certified to the king, that search may be made in the book of the records of thy fathers. So shall thou find in the book of the record, and know that this city is a rebellious city, and hurtful unto kings and provinces, that they have moved sedition within the same of old time, for which cause was the city destroyed. All right. We certify the king that if this city be built again, and the walls thereof set up, by this means thou shalt have no portion on this side of the river. So they was really campaigning against the rebuilding of the temple, the city. Okay, but look what happened. All right, verse 23. Now when a copy of the king Xerxes' letters was read before Rehum, right, and Shimshai the scribe, if I'm saying it right, and their companions, they went up in haste to Jerusalem to the Jews and made them cease by force. So the king granted them to stop. Look, it's cut work, right? Cut work. Stop work authority, right? It says, and made them cease by force and power. Then ceased the work of the house of the Most High, which is at Jerusalem. So it ceased into the second reign of Darius, king of Persia. All right, so you got these was a tribulous times, man. Okay, it was tribulous times. That what was going on, right? And I know it's written. Maybe I want to say, where could that be at? I forgot. When it says that we was maybe that's in Nehemiah. Let's get that in Nehemiah. Maybe in Nehemiah 4. Work is ridiculed. Let me see. All right, let me just read. It says, but it came to pass. So like, matter of fact, let me just read. Let me read chapter 2. Nehemiah's prayer answer. Nehemiah 2, it says, and it came to pass in the month of Nisan, it says, in the 20th year of Artaxerxes the king, that wine was brought before him. And I took up the wine, and I gave it unto the king. Now I had not been before time sat in his presence. All right, so you gotta understand, like I said, Ezra left before Nehemiah. Okay, wherefore the king said unto me, why is thy countenance sad, seeing that thou art not sick? He was like, man, what's wrong with you, bro? This is nothing else but sorrow of heart. Then I was very sore afraid, and said unto the king, let the king live forever. Why should not my countenance be sad when the city, the place for my father's sepulchres, I'm saying that right, lie at waste, and the gates thereof are consumed with fire? Then the king said unto me, for what doest thou make request? So I prayed unto the power of heaven and said unto the king, if it please the king, if thy servant have found favor. So he was a cupbearer for the king, right? Which is a high position. It says, if it please the king, and if thy servant have found favor in thy sight, that thou wouldest send me unto Judah, unto the city of my father's sepulchres, that I may build it. And the king said unto me, the queen also sitting by him, for how long shall thy journey be, and when shalt thou return? So it pleased the king to send me, and I set him a time. Moreover, I said unto the king, if it please the king, let letters be given to all the governors beyond the river, that it may convey me over till I come back to Judah. And a letter unto Asaph, the keeper of the king's forest, that he may give me timber to make beams for the gates. So he was supplied, right? He was supplied. So he allowed him. He allowed him to go to rebuild, and he was supplied. All right. So I'm gonna keep reading. It says, where was it? To give me timber to make beams for the gate in the palace which obtained it to the house, and for the wall of the city, and for the house that I shall enter into. And the king granted me according to the good hand of my power upon me. And it came to the governors beyond the river, and gave them king's letters. Now the king had sent captains of armies and horsemen with me. When Sanballat, the Horonite, and Tobiah the servant, the Ammonite, heard it, they grieved them exceedingly that there was come a man to seek the welfare of the children of Israel. And that's exactly how you Edomites are right now. You know, the elites, they know that Yahweh Shai is coming to seek the welfare of his elect. Okay? You see? They know that. So, this is going into the fact that, all right, the first commandment decree was to go rebuild the temple was by Cyrus, all right? And then, Nehemiah, like I said, Ezra left before Nehemiah, and Nehemiah is understanding, like, hey, man, like, what's going on? Like, like he said up here, it was 13 years after he left. He left before Nehemiah, 13 years, and he said, look, it says, verse 3, and I said unto the king, let the king live forever. Why should not my conscience be sad when the city and the place of my fathers' sepulchres lieth waste? So it's like, man, the temple, everything's supposed to be being, put together and rebuilt, but there ain't nothing happening. You know what I mean? Like what's going on? Because you had all this, you had troublous times in the rebuilding, of the temple, and then, you had stop work, like they really was trying to prevent this from happening. Like, and I'm gonna show you in another part of those troublous times. See, because you Christians don't understand that the rapture, the word rapture is nowhere in the Bible. All right, so this has nothing to do with the rapture, and I hope this is making sense. All right, this is verse 16. It says, "And the rulers knew not whither I went or what I did, neither as I yet told to the Jews, nor the priests, nor the nobles, nor the rulers, nor the rest that did the work. Then I said unto them, Ye see the distress that we are in, how Jerusalem lieth waste, and the gates thereof are burnt with fire. Come, let us build the walls of Jerusalem, that we be no more reproached. Then I told them of the hand of my power which was good upon me, as I as also the king words that had been spoken unto me. Come, Salakia, come and let us build up the wall of Jerusalem, there would be no more reproach. And then I told them, Salakia, yeah, that's what I meant. Then I told them that the hands of my power which was good upon me, as also the king's word that has been spoken unto me. And they said, Let us rise up and build. So they strengthened their hands for this good work. But when Sanballat the Hornite, and Tobiah the servant Ammonite, and Geshem the Arabian heard it, they laughed us to scorn, despised us, and said, What is this thing that you would do? Will you rebel against the king? Oh no, that's not what I'm looking for. It's like, even though, like, it just shows you how they was trying to come up against us, trying to come up against us to where, you know, we didn't complete the task, complete the mission. They wanted to, upset the whole thing. Let me see. I don't know, because it says, I know it says they had weapons in their hand. Uh, what goes to show you that these troubling times is when they was rebuilding the temple, man. All right, it was rebuilding the city. Let's see. Maybe here. Nehemiah 4. Let's see. Nehemiah 4 and so Nehemiah 4:15 it says, and it came to pass when our enemies heard that it was known unto us that the Most High had brought their counsel to naught, right? That we returned all of us to the wall, every one unto his work, right? It came to pass from that time forward that the half of my servants wrought in the work, and the other half of them held both spear and shield and bows, right? And the Harbergion and the rulers were behind all the house of Judah. They which build on the wall, and they that bear burdens with those that laden, every one with his hands wrought in the work, and with the other hand held a weapon. You see? For the builders, everyone had his sword girded by his side, so they built it, and he that sounded the trumpet was by me. So this is what's those troublous times that they was trying to build, and building the wall, rebuilding the temple, the city. So let's go back to Daniel's 9. That's those troublous times, man. All right? That's what he was talking about. Not no rapture. Okay? You see? It says, rebuild again the wall, troublous times. All right. And so after 60, back in 26, after 62 weeks, the Messiah shall be cut off. So after 62 weeks. So remember, it took 49 years for the temple to be rebuilt. So 62 weeks, which is 62, right? That's that 483. Add that. Let me make sure I'm doing that right. Let me add it on my phone. 40. Yeah, 434. All right, 434. Right, and 49, which would be 483 years. So 434 years later, the Messiah to be cut off, but not for himself, right? So he had to shed his blood, man. The Messiah, and this is prophecy. This is prophecy, right? So the Messiah had to be cut off, but not for himself. I believe that's in. I want to say that's one in Hebrews 7. Oh man, Hebrews 7. Okay, this is Hebrews 7:26. It says, "For such a high priest became us, who is holy, harmless, undefiled, separate from sinners, and made higher than the heavens." Right. This is Yahweh Shah. Yahweh Shah is the ultimate high priest, right? Who sacrificed for his sins, you know, ultimately, and then who needed not daily as those high priests who offer up sacrifice, first for his own sins, and then for the people's. For this he did once when he offered himself for the law maketh men high priests which have infirmity, but the word of oath, which was since the law maketh the Son who is consecrated forevermore. That's not the one I wanted, but that's okay. But he also he sacrificed for the sins of many. Let's see, sins many. Oh boy. Oh, Hebrews 9. Okay, this is Hebrews 9:28. It says, for Hamashiach once was offered to bear the sins of many, right? 26, it says, the Messiah may be cut off, but not for himself, right? So Hamashiach was offered to bear the sins of many, and unto them that look for him shall appear the second time without sin unto salvation, right? So he bared the sins, he bared the sins of many, and that's also read also in the book of Isaiah, the 53rd chapter. I believe this is Isaiah 53 and 5. No, 4. Start at 4. This is Isaiah 53 and 4. Surely he had borne our grief and carried our sorrow. Yet we did esteem him stricken, smitten of the Most High, and afflicted. But he was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquity. And the chastisement of our peace was upon him. And with his stripes we are healed. All we like sheep have gone astray. We have turned every one to his own way, and the Lord had laid upon him the iniquity of us all. Okay? So that's what it meant, where it says that he was cut off, but not for himself. Alright? Not for himself. And the people of the prince shall come to destroy the city and the sanctuary, and the end thereof shall be with the flood, and to the end of the war desolations are determined. So it says, and the people of the prince, now Vespasian, right? This is going into, the Flavian dynasty. Vespasian, which is the father of Titus, that prince is talking about Titus, right? Because Titus came in, and he really did his thing, right? Because this was going into, when you keep going, it's going to go into the Jewish wars. It says, and the people of the prince that shall come and destroy the city and the sanctuary, right? Because, and this is going into the siege of Jerusalem. All right. I mean, that's just that. Like, I don't understand how you get rapture and all of this extraness. When you're dealing with this, and you ask them to break it down, it just, it's the Holy Spirit type crap. You know what I mean? Whatever. So, like I said, this is going into the siege of Jerusalem. Okay. It says to destroy the city and the sanctuary, right? Going back to what 66 AD, right? And to like 73 or 74 AD, and we're gonna get into that 1 week, right? It says, at the end thereof shall be with the flood. And the scriptures always liken to the heathen coming down on us like a flood, right? When you can go to Isaiah. Isaiah 59. It's Isaiah 59 and 9. It says, oh, maybe not. Probably 19. Oh yeah, this is Isaiah 59:19. And so shall they feel the name of Yahweh from the west, and his glory from the rising of the sun. When the enemy shall come in like a flood, right? And it's like I say, it's going this Daniel's 9:26 is going into the siege of Jerusalem, right? The abomination of desolation that was written about that was spoken about by the prophet Daniel. When the enemy shall come in like a flood, the Spirit of the Lord shall lift up a standard against him, right? So that's the enemy always come in like a flood. Revelations 12 and 15. It says, and the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, right? And we know who the serpent is. Serpent going into Esau, Edom, all right? After the woman, which would be the nation of Israel, right? He cast out water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood. You see? So enemy always came in like a flood, and that's how you know that this is going into the siege. Oh man, the siege of Jerusalem. Lord willing, this is making sense. Okay, because this is the prophecy. This is that. This was, prophesied by Daniel, right? And I want to say that Daniel was like 500 years before Yahweh Shah. Okay, and it says, at the end of the war, desolation are determined. Desolations, all right? Abomination to make it desolate, if I'm saying that right. It says, and he shall confirm the covenant, right? And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week, all right? And that's that 1 week that's gonna make up it, because we had four. It was 483 years. All right. Now that 1 week, right, which would be 1 week, uh, time. So like, let me get the calculator. Oh no. So 483. Right. That 1 week, 7 years. So 7 more years. So starting from right 66 66 AD, all right, to 74. All right, let me just do that. 74, 73. All right, so 73 AD. So 66 AD to 73 AD. That's whenever you had the siege of Jerusalem going on, right? And it says, in the midst of the 1 week, right? In the midst of the 1 week, shall shall cause a sacrifice and oblation to cease for the overspreading of abomination. He shall make it desolate. So it wasn't no sacrificing going on because the temple was shut up. The temple was shut up. And you also had a character named Flores Gaius. I believe that's his name, Flores Gaius. He used to steal from the temple, and that's why the collection plate used to come around. He used to steal from the temple, and they used to pass a collection plate around to mock him. And he started killing off a lot of Jews for that. But that's just a side note. It says that in the midst of 1 week, so in the midst of that 1 week, which was 70 A.D., all right, that mist was 70 AD. All right, that's whenever Titus, came in there and just, I guess basically finished the job, you know, because Titus being the son of Vespasia, he really finished the job and took Jake down. So it says that in the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and oblation to cease. So it was the temple was shut up, man. The temple got sacked. All right. And for the overspreading of abominations, he did make it desolate, even to the consummation, and determined shall be poured upon the desolate. All right, and all this really was really started because of the Sakari, man. It really started because of the Sakari, being the fact that they felt like that only the Most High should rule over Israel. They had a real problem being under Rome, right? And they really was armed up. They had daggers and whatnot, to come up against Rome, real like cornerly and whatnot. They was pissed off about taxes, and how the fact that they didn't respect the temple. Rome didn't respect the temple or the Lord. They didn't respect the customs, and all of that. You see, and that's what pissed them off, and really started these Roman Jewish wars. You see, but hey man, that's what it is though. That's how it happened, right? Because they tried to the zealots, they was fighting, they was kicking They was kicking Edom ass at first, but whenever Titus came in, right, they was fighting against each other. The Zealots, they didn't have any unity with each other. They didn't, they was fighting against each other, right? And so which led to the fact that they, got destroyed. They got sacked. All right. But like I was saying, the troublous times goes into the rebuilding of the temple. All right. So again, those 70 weeks, 490, years, you know. So, a matter of fact, let me read this. I forgot. Uh, Ezra, is it Ezra? Ezra 6. This is Ezra 6 and 1. It says, "And Darius the king made a decree, and search was made in the house of the rolls, where the treasures was laid up in Babylon. And there was found at Ak- Achmitha, in the place that is the province of the Medes, a roll wherein it was a record thus written. The first year of Cyrus the king, the same Cyrus the king made a decree concerning the house of the Most High Jerusalem. Let the house be builded, and the place where they offer sacrifices, and the foundation thereof be strongly laid, and the height thereof 60 cubits, and the breadth thereof 60 cubits." Right, just going to the fact that these records were found. So let me I think it's down here somewhere. 14, it says, "And the elders of the Jews builded, and they prospered through the prophesying of Haggai and the prophet Zechariah, the son of Iddo. And they built it and finished it according to the commandments of the power of Israel, and according to the commandments of Cyrus and Darius and Artaxerxes, the king of Persia. And the house was finished on the third day of the month of Adar, which was the 6th year of the reign of Darius the king." So, it was the Lord working through these heathen kings that allowed the temple to be rebuilt, which took 49 years, and 434 years later, that's whenever, going into the crucifixion of Yahweh. So, this was had the troublous times is them rebuilding the temple and the city, and restoring the walls. Okay, so it has nothing to do with a rapture, which, like I said, the word rapture is nowhere in the Bible. So, Lord willing, you are edified. Shalom.